Welcome to Thinking Green. I'm Rana, and this week we are continuing with our end-of-year theme, which always kind of focuses on ways people can give in this holiday season that might have a bigger, better impact than just buying a lot of stuff. We know that we're always bombarded with advertising at this time of year, but I don't know about you, but I've got more stuff than I know what to do with. And there are ways that people can give that really do help make our community better. So, and particularly this year, with the recent presidential election and the more recent confirmation of the results of the presidential election, there are probably some causes we're all seeing right now that maybe seem a little more urgent than they might have in the past few years. So I'm particularly trying to focus on organizations and people that might feel particularly vulnerable under the new incoming administration. So with that in mind, my guest tonight is Cathy Zall. She's the executive director of the New London Homeless Hospitality Center, and in fact has been there for many years, probably about 8
years
8
or 9, yeah.
And she's been on the show before, but right now it's really cold out, and our political climate is also maybe a little chilly, so we're going to talk about some of what's happening for some of our most vulnerable people in town. So, Welcome, Cathy.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for coming on. I guess I wanted to start and just ask you, I know you've been with the Homeless Hospitality Center, you said 8 or 9 years. How did you start doing this?
Well, it seems like ancient history now, but there was a time when the city of New London had been running a homeless shelter for at least the winter at night, and the city council decided to eliminate all the funding for the New London Department of Social Services, and that was the organization that had always run the shelter.
And it also done a lot of resource and referral for a lot of people.
A lot of things. But the thing that sort of struck or sort of interacted with my life was there was no one to run the homeless shelter, and it was winter. And again, as you might remember, unfortunately, a few people died out in the woods, and a very unseemly, well, did they die on the Waterford side of the line, or did they die on the New London side of the line? And so really it was just a community effort, led a lot by Father Emmett Jarrett, who passed away a few years ago, but was just a person who determined that New London was not going to be a place that had no shelter for homeless. And so we really just came together in a very informal way, started out just a church, open a room, put down some mats, get people in out of the cold, and we've really grown from there.
And it is interesting, when it first started, I was a preschool teacher and working for Head Start, and my classroom was in the basement at the time that the third floor was being used to shelter people. And if you think about the biases you hear even among people who work for Head Start, who you think, well, we're a pretty liberal-leaning bunch. But when that shelter started, there were some people who worked in the office who said, aren't you sorry that we don't have you in the brand new Bayonet Street building? And we said, no, are you kidding? All of our families are walking, live very close, either in Crystal Avenue or Huntington Street or Federal Street. Half of our students were walking to the classroom at St. James, and it's like, it just seemed odd to me that anyone would think, oh, this makes a difference in whether or not we want our classroom to be in this building. But, you never know.
That's right.
And so I guess with that in mind, I wanted to talk a little bit about some of the facts of homelessness, because I think there is information out there, but there is a lot of misinformation too about who is homeless and what I don't think there's a single profile of the people you serve, but maybe you can share a little bit about some of the people.
Well, I think that actually, this is sort of the most important point I would make is there is no single profile. And I think people would be surprised that most of the people experiencing homelessness in New London, you wouldn't even know they were homeless. I think people have the stereotype, which does exist, of the person who's maybe living outdoors or in a tent or in an abandoned building, and that's definitely real and a very, very big concern of all of us, people who have been homeless for a long time. But that's probably not even 5% of the people who experience homelessness and would pass through our shelter system. So essentially, I would just say a couple categories. There are the people who are chronically homeless, many of them struggling with mental illness and substance abuse, PTSD, and a whole range of challenges that just make it hard to fit into society. Then you have a number of people who are what we call episodically homeless. They might work for a little while and then lose their jobs, and then they get back to work, then they lose their jobs again. And maybe one week you get 20 hours, the next week you get 10, the next week you get 30. Very hard to stay housed when you have that kind of cyclical employment. But the final, and actually the biggest number of people, are just people like you and I who hit a bad stretch, get laid off from a job, get sick. I can't even tell you how many people become homeless because they got sick, and once they were sick, they got laid off or they got fired. They had medical bills and couldn't pay the rent and end up homeless. Or even things that you wouldn't think are that big of a deal. Somebody's car breaks down and they don't have $500 to fix their car. They lose their job. It doesn't take long when you don't have a lot of resources to slide from being housed to being homeless. So it's just the whole range of people of all different kinds of circumstances.
And it is really scary that many people who are housed now are only a couple paychecks away from crisis.
I don't know if you saw that story in The Atlantic that across all income levels, I think like 40% of the people they interviewed could not come up with $400 in the case they faced an emergency that required that. So there's a lot of people, and again, if you earn very little and your rent is pretty high, I understand why people don't have resources, but it doesn't take much of a bump in the road before you're really slip out of the housing market.
And this is a little off what I intended to talk about, but the fact that we don't have any kind of universal health care here, and the unemployment compensation is really much lower than anyone can really live on. That there are other safety net services that we could be providing that would help keep people's lives more stable.
There's very little safety net. I mean, I think a lot of people don't recognize that for single adults, there is no welfare in Connecticut. Right. So if your unemployment runs out, or you worked off the books and you're not eligible for unemployment, or whatever happens, if you lose your job, there is literally nothing. So that's a kind of a desperate place to be. Now again, if you can get disability, it's something different. But that's a long process. That's very rigorous to get disability. So I think it's hard, and people, for me, just to really absorb the fact that you can be in a situation where you are absolutely destitute. And, homelessness comes along with that.
And it could have been something that 6 months ago you might never have foreseen.
That's exactly right. Exactly.
I know. I keep thinking about the medical emergencies that, so many people lose houses that they purchased because of health costs and crises. So the Homeless Hospitality Center in New London works on a few different levels, and I guess, I don't know what order you want to talk about, what kind of resources it offers.
Well, maybe I just sort of start in the reverse, like start with the people that many of us associate with homelessness, and those are generally people who are going to need a lot of support. And luckily in the state of Connecticut, we have something called permanent supportive housing, where we're able to pair a rental subsidy, a long-term rental subsidy, with some case management support and get people into housing. It's absolutely a miracle. I mean, when we started, there were a lot of people there's still people outdoors. I'm not saying it's completely eliminated, but just to see somebody get an apartment, it's just fabulous. But then in between, we're also doing a better job, I think, with people who don't need long-term support. They just need a quick, sometimes a few months, sometimes even just a few dollars. And we're really trying at the Hospitality Center to do that. So everything from something very small, like somebody loses everything, all their IDs. They can't get a new job because they don't have ID. They don't have the $15 that a birth certificate would cost, and they are stuck.
And nowadays you can't do anything
You can't do anything, right?
Without ID.
So we have a help center, and we do everything. Bus passes, short-term assistance to get your IDs back, $200 to fix your car. Relatively small investments that help people get back on their feet. And then sort of people that need more support, we do some help with first month's housing and security deposits. Because again, let's say you get a job and you're working at a job, you got not a lot of money. You're going to stay in a homeless shelter for 6 months while you save up enough for first month's rent and security deposit.
So even if your rent is going to be like $700 a month, to move in,
right.
You need 3 times that amount.
Right.
Usually.
So what we do is we provide some of that. And we get people every single week. We help them with a little bit towards that first month's rent. They put in some, we put in some. And it's just I can't even tell you. It's so great just to see people get back on their feet, and people are just incredible, are resilient, and just, even if they move into an apartment, all they have is a bed, they'll say, I'll take it, it's my place, and I can get back started on getting on my feet again. It's just great.
Well, I kind of remember what a process it was, and you talked about how, at St. James there was overnight winter support, and then after a while, I think the period of time throughout the year was extended.
Yep.
But it was quite a process for you to find a permanent home.
Yes.
And I do want to show some photos of it because, and I don't know. So this is the current homeless hospitality center. So tell us, where is it located?
Yeah, we bought it. It used to be the Polish National Catholic Church, and the one building was their church, and the second was their rectory. We're right across from the old mill, almost underneath the Gold Star Bridge is sort of how I describe it to people. A beautiful little site, and we've had some help with some landscaping, so we've tried to make it look inviting and pleasant and upbeat. So,
and let's see if we can look. Here's another.
Yeah. So that's just some outdoor seating area there, and that on the left there is a shed that we use to help give people a place to store their things, because a lot of people have to leave an apartment in a hurry, and we don't have room to store people's furniture and store people's all the stuff that, if you think about, if you had to leave your home on short notice. But at least when we built that shed, we can have a little more space and give people, let them hold on to a little bit more of their stuff till they get back into an apartment.
And that way they don't have to totally start from scratch once they have.
Well, and it's all you've got. You've got those few things, and it's really important to people.
And let's see. Okay, these are some indoor.
Yeah, I mean, again, what are we offering people? We have 2 big dorms like this, one with, let's say, 25 beds on one side and 15 on the other. It's nothing fancy, but it's clean. We do our best to let people go back to the same bed every night. We have a process so that, you get on the list and you can come in. It's not like you have to stand outside and worry every day, am I going to get in and I'm not going to get in. We do have a wait list. That's a bit of a downside. We can't always give shelter to everyone who needs it. but at least we try to take as much stress out of the process as we can. You can't really tell, but in the background there, those are lockers. So we give everybody a locker and a lock so that they can, keep some of their stuff secure. Just trying to, say that, we want you to feel welcome here and safe and, just respected.
And we have a couple more photos.
Yeah, that's our daytime hospitality center. So during the day, as you mentioned, it's been an evolution. We used to just have nighttime shelter, but now we're open 365 days a year, all day. And basically, people are still homeless during the day. So there's showers, there's place we have bathrooms, we have computers, we have phones we can use, and now in the winter we have wonderful people who make hundreds of hats. We give away hats in the cold and, just give people a clean pair of socks. We get a lot of, every week, a few people come right from prison in their prison clothes without a change of clothes, with nothing. So we have like some emergency clothing. Coffee, go through a lot of coffee. And again, as I said, our help center is right there. So just try to talk to people and help them get back on their feet and just do what we can.
Now, can anyone come into the day center regardless of whether they're sleeping there or where they're spending the night?
Yeah, now again, it's not, I don't think most people are just kind of strolling by and dropping in.
But I am wondering, there are some homeless people who are crashing on friends' couches and wondering whether they might be coming to use their computers or just to get out their friend's hair for a few hours or whatever.
And we have a very large number of people get their mail at the hospitality center because they are couch surfing and move from place to place, but they need somewhere where they can get their mail. So we have you can't see it obviously in that picture, a big thing where we sort every person's mail and pull them. We have volunteers that keep everybody's mail together, and people can come in and get it.
Let's see what else.
Oh, that's our help center on the right there. That's our help center supervisor. This is an absolutely fabulous person. She just connects with people and cares about people. Also Spanish speaking, so that we have that capacity. But she's just nonstop, giving out bus passes, telling people how to get places. I lost my food stamps. How do I get an Obama phone? How do I get back on my health insurance? How do I get to Sound Community Services? What's the phone number? I'm surprised she's not like spinning around because it's just all day. And then she has a bunch of volunteers who, just unbelievable people, retired people, younger people, and they just come in and help people make resumes, just be the help center. That's why it's called the help center.
Now, what's your capacity for overnight?
50 about.
Okay. And
on the list. It's not everybody comes in, so we have more people. We have on a busy day 100 different people will come through the hospitality center, believe it or not.
Okay, and some of them are just spending a few hours.
Yeah, some people just come and check their mail, or some people we have, obviously on a cold day. Recently, I would almost say our hospitality center is standing room only. There's not enough chairs for everybody to sit down.
Yeah, it got
because
cold
the weather's
really fast.
Because the weather's been so cold. But a lot of people just come and check in, or they have a question, or they need some sort of help, and then they leave. So it's not like 100 people sit there the whole day.
Right, but so there's a flow, but it seems like it's a lot of people.
It's a lot of people and a lot of flow and a lot of different people. And we always say, like, if we could make a reality show, our money woes would be over, because it's just like you just can't know what will be next.
Let's see.
That's just some more people sitting outside. That on the right there is our volunteer coordinator, and I maybe just use that as a minute to pitch. We have a lot of volunteers, and I think for a lot of people, it's like very, kind of hands-on, helping people. You don't need a lot of skills to do it, because a lot of it's just kind of life skills that you kind of pick up just from, whatever kind of job you've done. And so we have people that work at our front desk, we have people that bring food, we have people in the help center, a whole variety of different things that people do.
Let's see, I think this might be
Isn't that beautiful?
the last one of the grounds. Yeah, that is beautiful.
I love it. I love it. It should be beautiful. why not, you know?
By the way, I had a gentleman ask me the day last summer when we were painting the green and golden intersection. He said, I'd love to paint the driveway at the Homeless Hospitality Center.
Oh.
So if you all decide you want to, we probably have some leftover paint.
Okay, I'll have to see.
Use.
We'll have to check with our decorating committee.
Yes. I mean, in the case of the green and golden intersection, we did have an artist design that.
Okay.
But some places are more informal that way.
Right.
But we do have some pavement
Like
paint.
all those benches and those plants, those were all, the Chamber of Commerce has a leadership group that they do every year, and they pick one project to do as a group. And so those people, they were incredible. They built those benches, they brought in all those plants. They just did an incredible job. It's just
the
incredible.
grounds look really nice. Even
Right.
I'm thinking since I last saw them a year or so ago,
I know.
they've changed.
Chamber of Commerce leadership committee, leadership group.
Well, I wanted to talk a little bit about some other things. Veterans, I'm guessing, make up a certain amount of your the people who come to the homeless hospitality
Yeah, smaller and
center.
smaller though, fewer and fewer. The Veterans Administration has been absolutely all over ending veterans homelessness, and proportionally the investment that's available to end homelessness for veterans is, I don't know, I'm gonna say 50 times what it is for non-vets. And so really veterans get out of homelessness very quickly now, which is as it should be.
Yeah, it should be. But in the past, I know when you've been on the show, it's been a high percentage of people who are veterans.
But the Veterans Administration really made a commitment and put funding behind that commitment to help people get out of homelessness. And we know what ends homelessness: housing.
Right.
So if you have the resources, you can do it. And the Veterans Administration, I think, deserves a lot of credit. I think Connecticut was one of the first states in the country that could really show that every veteran who was becoming homeless was linked to a resource quickly and was getting out of homelessness quickly.
Now, how long ago did this Veterans Administration initiative
I'd say they probably started 4 years ago, and it took time to get going, but it's now in a very intense effort. And I don't know the magnitude of the investment in dollars, but it's really very impressive.
So I'm guessing if someone comes into your center and they're a vet, there are all kinds of things that you can plug them into very quickly.
I joke with my colleagues that any shelter that has a veteran in it is committing shelter malpractice, because there shouldn't be any veterans in shelter, because there are the resources there to help them.
Now, there are some houses in New London for veterans.
Yeah,
as
we
well,
have
aren't
one.
there?
It's so it's not a shelter. It's a house, and each vet has their own room. It's short term, because the idea is to get people quickly out of that and into their own place. But it's a nice stopping point while people find housing.
And one of the goals is permanent housing.
Permanent housing, yep.
So on average, for people who are not veterans, then how long does it take from when they walk in the door till when you feel like they're kind of settled?
It varies a lot. So more than half of the people that stay at the hospitality center stay less than 2 weeks. Okay, so the vast majority of people get back on their feet, quite quickly. And then at the other extreme, you could have people it takes months. But we're getting better and better. I mean, our goal is, and the national goal is, to have no one homeless more than 30 days. We're not nearly there yet. But at any point in time, we probably only have a small handful of people that have been in shelter more than 90 days. So we're getting better and better. We used to have people for, 1 year was not unusual, and we're really just figured out how to solve this problem more quickly.
Well, in New London, it does drive me crazy that there are so many buildings that lack occupants, and some of them are in poor condition, but some don't look like they would need a lot of updating. And you think there could be a cost-effective way to match up the people who need houses and the houses that need people.
I'm sure there's somebody that knows about that. I think, though, the underlying problem, though, even with better housing, which you're right we should do, is income. That our economy is changing, and the economy is leaving behind a certain segment of people. And I'm really actually quite concerned about it over time. So if you have somebody who's in their 50s, very little education, maybe, some prison time when they were younger, can't do manual heavy labor anymore. It is really, really a tough economy now for people in that situation. And so even if there was an apartment, you still need some income. And so if you can't find a job and there's no welfare, we're still going to have that problem until we have some kind of system in this country of income support. And I understand, people need to work and people need to try to take care of themselves, but there are people who look and look and look and simply can't find a job.
And our region has lost jobs.
That's right.
And many of the remaining ones don't pay a living wage.
Right, but there's some people that would take any job.
They would. But, well, it just seems like it's often a misconception that I have heard expressed. When I worked for Head Start, so many people assumed that those were families who were not employed. And those were families with young kids, so they were eligible for more governmental assistance than single people.
Right.
But when I was working for Head Start in the 80s, there were indeed some families that seemed kind of chronically unemployed, not necessarily working hard to change that, which if you have preschool kids, I'm not sure that should be your highest priority, is to find a place to be out of the house for long hours. But 10 years later, with welfare reform, I much more frequently saw people's pay stubs that they worked, parents of young kids who worked 4 different part-time jobs in the course of a year. If it was a married couple, the dad usually was working at least 60 hours a week while the mom stayed home and took care of the kids. But the income that was coming in, there were jobs in retail, in fast food, some nursing home jobs, and honestly, people who worked in early childhood education like me, even though I needed a college degree for the job I had. As a single person, I would have been eligible for all the poverty programs. So many people...
It's a challenge.
Yeah, there were many people I worked with over the years that were young, and they went from an 8-hour day working with young kids to doing night shifts in a restaurant or in a big box store just to make ends meet. And they were hardly ever seeing their own kids if they had them. It was tough. So yes, the job situation is troubling, because even among people who aren't homeless, a lot of them are not that far from a crisis because they haven't been able to save anything.
Right.
So for let's see, I wanted to think about if I'm missing any program. Oh, one thing I did want to mention is some people who come to you come sick. So you have some kind of facilities for sick people as well.
Yes, we have there's a portion of the shelter that we call respite. And one of the things that we saw early on is that when we had the shelter at St. James, the shelter would close at 7 o'clock in the morning. And whether you were sick or whether you just had an operation or whatever, you were undergoing chemotherapy, the shelter was closed. And we just realized right away, it took us a while to fix it, that when there are people who are homeless who need a space to recuperate. And so with the help of L&M Hospital, which helps us pay for some of the costs of this, we have a separate floor of the shelter where if people need to stay in bed all day, they can. It's a little quieter, We have support from the visiting nurse who's there a couple hours a day to help anybody in the shelter, but also just to help people get their prescriptions filled, get connected to healthcare. And there's a little clinic on the bottom floor of the shelter, which Community Health Center staffs. So they have one of their primary care providers there twice a week. So health is a huge problem among people experiencing homelessness. Diabetes, also, just injuries and wounds that don't heal. So we actually have quite a focus on health, and helping people connect to healthcare services is important.
Now, do most people find you, or do you have to go out and find people out in the world?
A lot of people find us. We do, I think, we see about 30 new people a week. Okay, so over the course of a year, we do 900 intake interviews. So we see a lot of people. So the main people we go looking for are the people who are living outdoors. And we do have an outreach worker. I don't know if you know Tambria.
Yeah,
you know
sure.
Tambria, she's fabulous. So we are out there, under the bridge and out with Jeannie Milstein from the city, talking to people, encouraging them to, some people won't come into the shelter. It just doesn't psychologically work for them. So we do go out, but we don't. Yeah. Most people know where we are. We have got a very small sign. Everybody seems to find us. It's not,
yes,
we're not hurting for business.
No. I have a feeling into the future you still won't be hurting for business.
Right.
Well, okay, so if people want to be supportive, you mentioned the volunteer coordinator. What kind of things can people do if they want to spend time?
Yeah, well, on our website, you can easily link to the volunteer coordinator, whose name is Paula Hardy. And what she does is sit down with people. So there's everything from, let's say, groups or families that may come once a month. And at night, the Community Meal Center serves food, so we don't serve meals efficiently. Right. But at night, people will come and bring a snack. And as I said, I've seen families, people from Mitchell College come, Rotary comes, and it's just really fellowship. And I love it because it gets people from the community inside a homeless shelter, and they're like, oh, this isn't what I thought. Or, gee, I just knew somebody here who I grew up with, that happens very frequently. And so they come, they serve a meal once a month, and so that's sort of not too intense. But then we have some people that volunteer every week. So they'll say, I'll come in at night. And they staff the front desk and sign people in. We have people that volunteer during the day. And then we have people in the help center who just, whatever comes at them, how do I do this? How do I do that? So even once a week. And then we have people that, help do drives. We always need socks. We always need coffee. We always need Cremora, sugar, things like that. And then we have some sort of specialized volunteers. We have some volunteers that help us with maintenance and other things like that. Pretty much almost anything that anybody could do, we could probably use their help. And I just want to say the other thing that we have that I want to mention is Homeward Bound Treasures, which is our thrift store downtown. So we have a number of volunteers that just love thrift store stuff. And so they're down there helping sort and price and sell stuff, and so we got a lot of different opportunities.
Well, let's talk a little bit about Homeward Bound Treasures, because it isn't just a thrift shop. And I kind of remember when it was started. I think you and John Russell were on the show just about that time. And the idea was, to raise revenue, and also some of the stuff that's donated helps people who are moving into apartments, right?
Well, we try to run Homeward Bound as a business, so so they're there to sell things, not to give them away. But so it's really pretty nice stuff, actually. So we have all kinds of people shop there. People, who are limited income, college students, people who are looking for something unusual. We get all kinds of stuff in there. So we have customers across the spectrum.
Well. So, and that's on Golden Street.
Golden
and
Street,
it's been
right.
there for quite a while, probably
we have.
6 or 7 years.
Yes, yep.
It is a great shopping experience there. Now, you have volunteers also.
Oh, there.
That's another opportunity.
Yep, that is.
And I wanted to mention also, I lost my slide slightly prematurely, but people can take tours.
Yes.
And I think I took one a couple of years ago, but tell us about the
we do
tours.
them twice a month. Again, we'll love to talk to anybody anytime, but we do organized tours twice a month. You can check our website for the dates and let us know, and we'll get in contact with you and confirm if you want to come. We just try to, in 1 hour, in and out in an hour, kind of give an overview of homelessness. We usually have several guests that will join us just to share their experience, show people the shelter, talk about what we do. Some people then want to volunteer or want to contribute, but not necessary. It's just also just to increase awareness of what homelessness is about.
Now, do you have guests who have stayed in the shelter, found housing, and
then
they come back?
Of course.
Often?
I mean, well, some come back. You mean homeless?
Yeah.
It happens. It happens.
Or come back just to volunteer.
Oh, yes.
Not necessarily
I would
homeless.
say, and the majority of our staff have been homeless. So, and one thing, I live in New London, and I can't go anywhere that I don't run into people that I know.
Yeah, New London is like that.
Yeah, but it's great because people really appreciate it. And I can't tell you how many people come and say, look, I'm great now, I got a job, I'm back with my family, whatever. And, you guys really helped me out when I was in a really tough spot. And people remember. I keep saying, well, if you hit the lottery, don't forget us.
Well, and I'm thinking, just looking from the outside, that one of the challenges is that the guests at the Homeless Hospitality Center are somewhat isolated from the community at large, and vice versa. Mm-hmm. The tours are a really good first step to remedying that.
Yeah, I think that's a big problem in our country as a whole. I think we're becoming more and more isolated in our own little enclaves, whatever those are. And I think it's important for people just get out, find out how other people are living, meet people who are in different circumstances than you. It just enriches on both sides.
We just spent a couple of days in New York City just as tourists, but there really it hits home like no other place. The incredible wealth gap. You'd see cars on the street that cost more than my house.
Right.
And then you also see people, setting up cardboard in subway station entrances because they don't have a bed to sleep in. And it's just, I don't know. I'm fearful that actually the gap is going to widen over the next few years.
It is widening. It is widening. And it has been for years.
And I don't see in the near future any sort of movement to close the gap. I think it would take some very proactive effort to do that.
God is good all the time. I have to say that as a minister. I have to say that.
Yeah, I don't. I do worry, but about that
but again,
happening.
I think the thing I would say about that is I just think, ethically and morally and in all ways, it's something we have to address. But the other thing is that we're starting to really try to be very hard-nosed about this, which is, I hate to be crass, but it costs money to leave people so poor. Very poor people get sick and end up in the hospital, and somebody pays for that hospital. Very poor people are more likely to get pulled into crime and go to jail at great expense.
Sure.
So
incarcerating people costs more than educating them by far.
Right. So one of the things we're trying to make the argument, beyond which that this is just what we owe each other as human beings, is that, look, it makes sense to take care of people so that they don't get sick and so that they can get back and start working again and paying taxes again and being part of, the mainstream of society again.
Now, you have a website, nlhc.org. hc.org,
yes.
and it's got a lot of information on it. And under the giving part, it talks about volunteering, and it also talks about advocating. So what can regular citizens do to advocate?
Well, I think, again, we don't know. You say it's an uncertain political future. It definitely is. We don't know what will happen. There may be the need for all of us to be doing a lot of advocacy to, protect things that work. So that is one opportunity. I feel now, honestly, locally, I feel like awareness of homelessness is pretty good. I feel like the city and elected officials in our area get what we're doing. I don't feel at odds with them like we used to be. So I don't have any immediate advocacy, but some of it's just in conversation. When your kids see somebody who's panhandling, to try to say that's not all of homelessness. Homelessness is much bigger than that. So I think just to be talking about it with people that we know in everyday life is a kind of advocacy.
Now let's talk a little bit about some events, and first maybe the one that's coming up very soon, tomorrow.
Yeah, right.
So
yeah, we participate, and this is organized by the Hospitality Center and St. Francis House. There's a national day of kind of memorial for people who have died while they were homeless, and we picked the longest night of the year. It's a national event, and we share memories. We remember the names of people, many of whom might not otherwise really be remembered. And it's a wonderful community event. It's at 6:30 at Engaging Heaven Church, 66 Union Street. Everybody is welcome.
So the entrance is right across from
the post office. Right across from the post office.
Okay, and anyone can come. That you said 6 p.m.?
It's 6:30.
6:30
At 6:30.
p.m.
Yep, 6:30.
Okay, and how many people do you usually get coming to that, or does it
Maybe
vary?
100. Maybe 100.
I must admit, I always miss it. It's my son's birthday on the 21st.
Well, you know what? Just think of us.
Yes.
Think of us.
So we're always doing birthday stuff.
Right. That makes sense.
and not going to it. So that's something that's coming up really soon. But there are some, in spring, you have a walk every year. Maybe talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully people will be on the lookout. We have a walk to end homelessness. It's organized for us by Connecticut College, which is super. The Holleran Center, they have a group of students that, plan the outreach and do a lot of the work. And I don't even know last year. We might have had 350 people last year. It was
It seems like every year gets a little bigger.
I know. And it's so we raise money, but I think it's also raises awareness, builds community. And last year, the students really developed a lot of kind of interactive activities. I mean, I don't know what they are, like not performance art, but some kind of, along the walk, which I thought shared information about homelessness in a really, wonderful way. So, yeah, the walk will be in, I'm thinking, April.
Now, the students, I mean, they do more interacting with the Homeless Hospitality Center than just organizing the walk, correct?
Yes.
That they volunteer
Yep.
there, and also some of them in Covenant Shelter.
Yeah, Connecticut College has all kinds of volunteer. The ones that do the walk, it's sort of it's their project for their sophomore year, I think. So they organize the walk and they volunteer and they study homelessness in their class.
So what kind of things do they do? Do they spend a certain amount of time in the
I think they do.
center?
Yeah, they're not quite enough time to really get good at what they're doing, to be honest. But I think it's good. They're exposed to it and they get to know people. And so I'm sure, and I've had people, because I go like graduation, who are seniors who say that was really a turning point for me. I had never been exposed to people who were homeless, and it opened my eyes to, and some of them decide to go on that way, so maybe we're creating some homeless advocates for the future.
Well, I'm thinking about the wealth gap and how you had mentioned that it seems as though we're much more compartmentalized than we were. I don't know, when I think about how neighborhoods have evolved over the last 50, 70 years, people more and more live in neighborhoods that have, with people of the same socioeconomic class, whereas at some point, 50, 70 years ago, maybe they lived in less ethnically diverse neighborhoods, but the neighborhoods might have been more diverse in terms of economic status. Mm-hmm. Now people tend to live near others who earn the same amount as they do. And I think that most of the students at Conn College come from a relatively privileged background, and I wouldn't be a bit surprised if some of them were very isolated from this kind of thing.
Yeah, and they're from all over the country. There are other parts of the country where maybe there wasn't that kind of opportunity to get involved with something like this. So,
well, we have about 5 minutes left, and I did find on the website a list of ways to help, because the theme of this is supposed to be like things we can do to help. And once again, this time of the year, most of us have plenty of stuff. I think of my grandkids. They live in a small apartment. If I got stuff for them, anyway, their parents would not be happy.
I mean, just a few
so
things.
So we can talk about things that you can give.
We've had some wonderful parent and child where the child will come down to the shelter and bring something like some socks or some coffee. So I think that's good. We also have, and I think I saw it even on our Facebook page, a nice where if you make a donation in honor of somebody, we'll send a card to that person that says, a donation in your name has been made by, so that you have something kind of tangible if you need to put something under the tree or you want that, to be recognized. So I know we have those. So again, I feel the same as you. I don't need any more stuff. And so, us or other causes, but sometimes you want to have that tangible thing to give somebody. And so we have a very nice card that will acknowledge that and get that out to people right away if you make a donation. You can donate online at our website, and we send that card out almost the next day. So it'll be in the mail.
And I noticed it's very easy to donate
online.
Easy. And you also have a little thing about bequests.
Yes.
That I don't know how many people take advantage
Not enough.
of that. But, and just items on the website, a lot of kitchen items are welcome. A lot of toiletries are welcome. Clothing, miscellaneous stuff.
Yeah, the only thing I would say is that we don't have a lot of storage space, so we really appreciate people's generosity, but we don't have enough space to store tons of clothing. So we would really sort of prefer sort of smaller items, and if somebody's going to spend money, coffee, cremora, sugar, because we go through a ton of that, and it's expensive
this time of
stuff.
Year especially when it's just so dark.
I look at the budget and I say, how could we have spent that much money? But when you get 100 people through, it doesn't take long before you go through a lot of stuff.
Yeah. So coffee and small items. I'm guessing toiletry items.
Yeah. Yes.
Would be preferred. And I'm sure, what's the phone number there if someone just wanted to call and say, what do you need right now?
I think it's 860-439-1573. But our website is, and we have an absolutely fabulous webmaster. Web mistress, I guess I should call her. So it's constantly being updated, and our Facebook page and stuff like that. Just try to reach out there.
And I guess tell people your address, and also your parking lot is on a different street. So
well, we're on Huntington Street. We cannot get the GPS world to find us at 730 State Pier Road, so don't look for us at 730 State Pier Road.
It's because redevelopment messed up all the streets
really,
in that area, and the State Pier addresses are all messed up.
And we cannot seem to correct them. So 325
No,
Huntington Street
Those
is
mistakes are way older than you are.
I know. Well, I
No.
thought they could be fixed. I thought anything could be fixed, but we haven't succeeded.
Not yet.
325 Huntington Street is
And you enter the parking lot from
Yeah.
Huntington Street anyway.
Yes,
even
that's
though
right.
the building looks like it's on State Pier
Right,
Road.
that's right.
Right across from the old mill.
Right. But if you know where the old mill is, you're close.
So the next event coming up is the memorial tomorrow at 6:30 at
Right.
Engaging Heaven on Union Street.
Right.
And there are tours coming up fairly soon, I think. You can go to the
Right, they're on the
website and get
website.
the dates.
Yep. And, also if you just want to come and talk to our volunteer coordinator, say, hey, I don't know exactly what I'd like to do. Could you tell me more? We'll show you around and, see what might be a fit, could shadow somebody just to get a feel for it. And, just try to see what might fit.
Well, thank you, Cathy.
Well, thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, I had fun. And next week, our planned guest is Jason Ortiz, and he's going to talk about drug policy and what it might look like now and in the years to come. So that'll be next week. And thank you, Cathy, for coming on this week.
Thank you very much.
I'm guessing